I woke up to the sound of birds chirping outside my window, their melodies sharp and jarring. Sunlight streamed through the gaps in my blinds, casting jagged lines across the room. I squinted against the brightness, trying to shake off the remnants of sleep that clung to my mind like cobwebs. Something felt off, though I couldn't quite place what it was. The air was thick, almost suffocating, with an unfamiliar scent that made my stomach churn. I rolled over and sat up, feeling the familiar dull ache in my lower back that had been bothering me for weeks. Groggily, I reached for my phone on the nightstand to check the time, but my hand stopped midair as a sharp, unfamiliar pain shot through my abdomen. I winced, placing a hand on my belly instinctively. That's when I felt it. A small, hard bump beneath my skin. My breath caught in my throat as I looked down, my heart hammering in my chest. I stared in disbelief at my stomach, now slightly rounded as if swollen from within. It wasn't much, but it was enough to send a wave of panic crashing over me. I hadn't been with anyone in years. My last relationship had ended in bitter loneliness, leaving me withdrawn and isolated. I hadn't even so much as kissed anyone since then. And yet, there it was, an undeniable sign that something was growing inside me. I bolted out of bed and stumbled into the bathroom, nearly tripping over the tangled sheets that clung to my legs. My reflection in the mirror looked pale and gaunt, eyes wide with terror as I yanked up my nightshirt. I ran my hands over it, trying to convince myself that it was all in my head, but the reality of it pressed back against my palms, firm and unyielding. What the hell? I whispered to myself, my voice trembling. My mind raced, searching for explanations, anything that could make sense of this impossible situation. Could it be a tumor? Some kind of medical condition? But even as I thought it, I knew it wasn't true. This was something different, something unnatural. My phone buzzed, jolting me out of my spiraling thoughts. I grabbed it off the counter, half expecting to see some missed call or message that would offer a clue. But it was just a notification, a reminder for a dentist appointment I had completely forgotten about. I dismissed it and quickly dialed my doctor's office, pacing the bathroom as the line rang. "Hello, Dr. Peters' office. I need to see the doctor," I blurted out, trying to keep my voice steady. It's urgent. We have a few openings next week. Will that work?" "No, it has to be today," I insisted, feeling a surge of desperation. There was a pause on the other end. "I'm sorry, but Dr. Peters is fully booked today." "Is it an emergency?" I hesitated. I didn't know how to explain this over the phone. I didn't even know how to explain it to myself. "Yes," I finally said, my voice barely above a whisper. "It's an emergency." Another pause, longer this time. "All right, I'll see if we can fit you in." "Please hold." The hold music droned on, a monotonous melody that only heightened my anxiety. I kept one hand pressed to my stomach, feeling every slight movement, The longer I waited, the more I felt like I was losing my grip on reality. Finally, the receptionist came back on the line. "We can squeeze you in at 2:30. Please come in as soon as you can." "Thank you," I muttered, ending the call. I spent the next few hours in a daze, going through the motions of getting ready without really thinking about it. The nausea that had been plaguing me for days seemed to intensify with every passing minute, but I forced myself to ignore it. I had to stay focused, had to keep it together until I could see the doctor. But even as I tried to maintain control, the memories started creeping in, unbidden and terrifying. Flashes of light. Cold, sterile metal. Voices, garbled and alien. The sensation of being pinned down, unable to move, while something sharp and invasive probed at my body. I shook my head, trying to dispel the images, but they clung to me like shadows. I had always dismissed those memories as nightmares, figments of my imagination brought on by stress and loneliness. But now, they felt too real, too vivid to be mere dreams. By the time I arrived at the doctor's office, I was trembling, my mind a jumbled mess of fear and confusion. The receptionist gave me a concerned look as I signed in, but I avoided her gaze, focusing instead on the rhythmic ticking of the clock on the wall. Each tick seemed to echo in my head, a countdown to some inevitable horror I couldn't quite comprehend. When my name was finally called, I followed the nurse to the exam room in a day. Peters greeted me with his usual calm demeanor, but as soon as I lifted my shirt to show him the swelling, his expression shifted to one of deep concern. "How long has this been happening?" he asked, his voice laced with urgency as he examined my abdomen with practiced hands. I just noticed it this morning," I stammered. "But I've been feeling off for weeks. Nausea, back pain. I didn't think much of it until now." He nodded, his brow furrowed as he continued his examination. "We need to do some tests. I'll order an ultrasound right away." An ultrasound? To confirm what, exactly? That I was pregnant? I still couldn't wrap my head around it. This couldn't be happening. It just couldn't. The next hour passed in a blur of cold gel. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding in my chest, but I couldn't make sense of the blurry images that flickered across it. I was too afraid to ask, too terrified of what the answer might be. When Dr. Peters returned with the results, his face was pale, his eyes wide with a mix of disbelief and fear. I don't know how to explain this," he began, his voice shaky. "The ultrasound shows, well, it shows that you're pregnant. But it also shows something abnormal." "Abnormal?" I echoed, my voice hollow. He hesitated, as if struggling to find the right words. "The growth rate is much faster than it should be. Much faster. And there are other anomalies. Things I've never seen before." My mind reeled. Faster? What did that mean? How could this even be possible? But before I could voice my questions, another wave of memories crashed over me. Bright lights. Cold, metallic surfaces. Strange, elongated figures moving around me, their eyes black and soulless. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I could feel them touching me, cutting into me, but there was no pain, only a deep, bone-chilling cold that seeped into my very soul. I snapped back to the present with a gasp, my heart racing out of control. Dr. Peters was still talking, but his words were muffled, distant. I could barely hear him over the pounding of my own heartbeat. I had to get out of there. I couldn't stay. I couldn't let them take me again. Without thinking, I bolted from the exam room, ignoring Dr. Peters' startled shout as I fled down the hallway. I didn't stop until I was outside. I doubled over, gasping for breath, my mind a chaotic storm of fear and confusion. I didn't know where to go, what to do. I just knew I couldn't stay there. I had to get away, had to figure out what was happening to me before it was too late. But even as I stumbled to my car, my hands shaking so badly I could barely get the keys in the ignition, I knew it was already too late. The drive home was a blur, the road twisting and turning beneath my tires like a living thing. My vision swam, the landscape warping and distorting in the corners of my eyes. The memories kept flooding back, more and more vivid with each passing second. I could see them now, the beings who had taken me, their faces expressionless and cruel as they conducted their experiments. I could feel the cold metal beneath me, the restraints that held me down. I barely made it through my front door before collapsing on the floor, my body racked with sobs. This couldn't be real. It couldn't. But the bulge in my stomach was real enough, a constant reminder of the nightmare I couldn't escape. Days passed in a haze of terror and denial. I barely ate, barely slept. The pain in my abdomen grew worse with each passing hour, the bulge growing larger and more pronounced. I could feel it moving inside me now, something alive and unnatural. Something that didn't belong. I tried to tell myself it was all in my head, that I was imagining things, but the truth was undeniable. I was carrying something inside me, something that wasn't human. And whatever it was growing fast. I started to hear things at night, strange a low, rhythmic thumping, like a heartbeat that wasn't my own. Scratching, scraping sounds, as if something was trying to claw its way out. I could barely bring myself to look in the mirror anymore, too afraid of what I might see. But the worst part was the dreams. Every time I closed my eyes, I was back there, on that cold metal table, surrounded by those soulless beings. They were everywhere, their long, spindly fingers probing and prodding at me, their eyes reflecting no emotion, no pity. I could feel them inside me, changing me, molding me into something else. And there was nothing I could do to stop them. One night, I woke up screaming, drenched in sweat, the taste of blood in my mouth. I had bitten my tongue in my sleep, but I could feel something shifting inside me, something pressing against my insides as if trying to escape. The thumping was louder now, more insistent, a relentless drumming that echoed through my entire body. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to do something, had to get it out of me before it was too late. I stumbled to the bathroom, my vision blurred with tears, and grabbed the nearest object I could find, a pair of scissors. My hands shook so badly I could barely hold them, but I forced myself to bring the blades to my skin, pressing down until I felt the sharp sting of metal slicing through flesh. The pain was excruciating, but I didn't care. I had to get it out. I had to stop it before it took me over completely. Blood poured from the wound, hot and sticky, but the thumping grew louder, more frantic, as if it knew what I was trying to do. Suddenly, I felt something give way beneath the blades, something hard and slick. I dropped the scissors in shock, my breath hitching in my throat as I reached into the wound with trembling fingers. I could feel it now, something smooth and slimy, pulsing beneath my touch. It was alive. It was moving. A scream tore from my throat as I yanked my hand away, stumbling back against the wall. Blood coated my fingers, my hand slick with the evidence of what I had just touched. I could feel it still, inside me, writhing and squirming as if trying to break free. I had to get out of there. I couldn't stay. I had to get as far away from this thing as possible. The edges of my vision blurred, the walls closing in on me as darkness swallowed me whole. I don't know how long I was out. When I came to, the pain was gone, replaced by a numbness that spread through my entire body. I was lying on the floor of the bathroom, the scissors still clutched in my hand, the wound in my stomach oozing dark, thick blood. But something was different now, something was wrong. I could feel it inside me, more powerful than before, more insistent. The thumping had stopped, replaced by a low, rhythmic vibration that seemed to pulse through my entire being. It wasn't just inside me anymore. It was part of me. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I tried to move, but my body wouldn't obey. I was paralyzed, trapped inside my own mind. I could feel it spreading, its tendrils reaching into every part of me, twisting and reshaping me from the inside out. I don't know what happened next. The memories are fragmented, disjointed. Flashes of light, voices in the dark, the sensation of being lifted, carried. I was no longer in control, a passenger in my own body as it was taken over by something else. When I finally regained some semblance of awareness, I was no longer in my bathroom. I was somewhere else, somewhere cold and dark. The air was thick with the stench of decay, the walls slick with moisture. I could hear them now, the beings who had taken me, their voices low and guttural as they spoke in that strange alien language. I tried to move, tried to scream, but my body wouldn't respond. I was trapped, helpless, as they continued their work. I could feel their hands on me. I was being transformed, altered in ways I couldn't comprehend. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, it was over. The pain was gone, replaced by a numbness that spread through my entire being. I could feel them leaving, their presence fading as they completed their task. But I was no longer alone. Something was inside me, something that wasn't human. I could feel it now, its consciousness merging with mine, its thoughts and desires becoming my own. I was no longer me. I was something else, something new. I don't know how long I stayed in that dark, cold place. Time had no meaning there. But eventually, I was returned to my home, my body whole and unscathed, as if nothing had happened. The wound in my stomach was gone, replaced by smooth, unblemished skin. But the changes were I could feel it inside me, growing stronger with each passing day. My thoughts were no longer my own, my mind filled with strange alien desires that I couldn't control. I was being consumed, taken over by something that had no place in this world. And now, as I sit here, writing this, I can feel it stirring again. It's almost time. I don't know what's going to happen when it finally breaks free, but I know it won't be good. I can only hope that someone finds this, that someone reads it and understands what happened to me. Because when it does, there will be no stopping it.